broadcasting a new paradigm on the One Network.
At this pivotal time in humanity's evolution, we are beginning to remember our organic technology. A technology, when used correctly, can create an experience that the majority of the people the world over want to live. It is time to use this technology consciously for our own benefit and healing, and no longer unconsciously for our own demise. We are multi-dimensional creators, creating both our own personal experience and our collective experience moment to moment. We invite you to join us as we reawaken this technology through experiment and experience our power to create and manifest.
Hello and welcome to this week's Collective Imagination Show, coming to you from our living room in Alston. This show is being pre-recorded to be broadcast live at the scheduled time. Once again, we have Brian Kelly.
Hello everyone, welcome to my family room. Glad to have you all here with us this evening.
And we have Dee.
Hello everyone, it's rather hot. Again, we're sweating, but that's good.
And we have Heather here to answer some of the questions that came through prior to and since the release of the raw footage of last week's show. So once again, Heather.
Good evening.
Now Brian's sitting there, laptop at the ready. Questions at hand.
Kind of.
Kind of.
Yep.
The response to the raw footage that was put out has been very, very positive. And as yet, yes, I know the produced version's not up yet, but hopefully will be by the time this goes to air. There were a lot of technical difficulties, unfortunately starting with not being able to go live, but it took our wonderful Blue Star here a good 4 days just to clean up and sync the audio that we had. And as soon as that was made sort of cleaned up and sorted, that's when the raw footage went up. And post-production is in its final stages of our version. So Brian, are you ready to go?
Yes, already. These questions were taken from, let's see, Facebook threads. Just going through the questions that were just sent to me, well, over a week ago, but I just realized we're there now on Skype from Lisa. And we weren't able to get to this when we did the recording with Sacha and Heather, so we decided to do, well, Heather agreed to do another show to where we can make sure that we get everybody's questions answered. And I have a lot of them here. And I think I'm going to start out with one that you just sent me, Lisa, depending on, it's pretty long. But I'm going to read it anyways. This is by Anonymous. I have no idea where the source is. It says, "Hi, so glad to have you guys back. My question to Heather and Danny. I do believe in the absolute plan that it is all done. But I'm older and the relentless grinding poverty year after year has worn us down. I'm a single mom, besides trying to help others to wake them up, already doing that. And if they aren't already, I can't make them. What can we do to help or hurry it up? I agree with Danny. It seems like every moment involves a new hierarchy or changing an old one.
Every moment or every movement?
Every movement involves a new hierarchy or changing an old one. I'm specifically thinking of New Earth Nation but at least making differences by getting the word out. I'm all for a new way, but no hierarchy, using the as yet unleashed power in our own skin suits. But how do we make that happen? Well, I would rather cut back on what I do rather than take on more, waiting for what is already done, and make a positive difference in our lives is getting old. So any ideas on when we'll see positive difference in our lives? And what can we do to help? Danny, thanks for the writing. It's practical and uplifting, just what we need. Thanks so much to all of you. So,
number one, we all have many roles that we play as a mom of four, especially after the day that I experienced today. I get it. I get the tiredness, the feel of tiredness, the feel of exhaustion, the feel of wanting so much more for everyone, let alone your own family, and knowing that if the world was perfect, you wouldn't have to worry about your family. I get all that. Okay, so first question that I'll answer, and please help me if I miss anything. First question I'll answer is, what can she do? Also in consideration of the fact that she's feeling very tired and exhausted, I will speak from my own experience, is just handle every moment as it comes. Don't focus on the past, don't focus on the future, focus only on the now, the present, okay? For me, it helps. Also, when I'm sitting there, the things that I do, I don't sit and focus and go, okay, I need to save the world, I need to save the universe, I need to save this or that, because I would not get out of bed if that was my mind of thought. And I don't really have a choice about getting out of bed, it just happens. Got to do it with the four little ones that are running around. So moment by moment, handle each moment as it comes. And I stopped focusing on having to save everyone, on having to go out and wake everyone up. I trust that everyone is definitely on their pre-designed time frame, if you want to do time frame, event frame, order of events. I just trust that everyone's got it all figured out in their multidimensional self, and that is going to bust through, it's going to come through. And the best way that I know how to help anyone is to focus on myself and being hyper aware of myself, being hyper aware of what is in front of me, and giving it all the attention in that moment now. And it flies by, it resolves itself. I'm able to find a solution to whatever it might be in front of me, or to also remember to enjoy that moment, no matter what it seems like, things blowing up. I don't always remember to do that, but during the moment, definitely in the next moment, I can look back and say, I learned a lot, I remembered a lot in that moment, and be happy for it, no matter what it is, and just let it go. And the next moment's there. That's my own experience, and it really helps me to get through this, through every moment of every day. Otherwise, I'd be in a fetal position in a corner and just saying, I resign, which I actually tried to do, and it didn't work. The other question, hierarchy. Okay, I really, really love what we all did last week. That doing, out of everything that we've done, was phenomenal. It still is phenomenal. The energy that is going out and touching, and it's exponential. And it's actually creating even more energy from everyone else coming through. So talk about portals. We are the portals. That energy coming through is changing the world. When will you see it? When you choose to. I already see it. And Brian and I have had a moment where nothing's happened. Lisa too. Nothing's happening. Nothing's changed. And okay, it's going to be what it is in that moment. And if you choose to see it, you will experience it. I wake up every morning saying that I want to see what is. I want to see what someone tells me. I don't want to see what I want to see. I want to see what is. And then from there, I can make a conscious choice of how I want to handle each moment and what I want to create from there. Hierarchy, again, I don't do well with rules. I don't do well with protocols. I don't do well with hierarchy, period. Everyone knows that knows me or that has had to experience me. I just love Sacha. I love all the energy of all the people that I see working with Sacha, trying to put something together and putting something together. Something about that try word I've never liked, because you've already set yourself up to fail. He set something up. Everyone that's worked with him and has, whether behind the scenes and you don't see them, whether in the front, what I like is that they're doing. you know, Hope and all those guys and all you guys and everyone's doing. You can say you tried. The thing is, all I know is you did. And you do. I appreciate that. I enjoy that, and it helps inspire me to keep doing. So is there any other part to the hierarchy? How can she do? I know that I gain lots of energy when I focus on me, because anything I focus on me, I'm actually putting into the quantum, into the cellular of every single being, and they are too, and I'm getting it. I'm listening. I'm listening and hearing, not all the time, but in that moment, but I get it at some moment, and I'm feeling everyone. So I'm just being hyper aware of what the energies that are around me.
Question, okay? Hi. So glad to have you guys back. My question to Heather and Danny. I do believe in the absolute plan, that it is all done. But I'm older, and the relentless grinding poverty year after year has worn us down as a single mom. Besides trying to help others to wake up, I'm already doing that. And if they aren't ready, I can't make them. What can we do to help or hurry it up? I agree with Danny. It seems like every moment involves a new hierarchy or changing an old one. I'm specifically thinking New Earth Nation, but it at least is making a difference by getting the word out. I'm all for a whole new way, no money or hierarchy, using the as yet unleashed power in our skin suits. But how do we make that happen? While I would rather cut back on what I do rather than take on more, waiting for what is already done to make a positive difference in our lives is getting old. So any ideas on when we'll see positive difference in our lives, not just world turmoil, and what we can do to help? Danny, thanks for the writing. It's practical and uplifting, just what we need. Thanks and much love to all of you. And as a postscript to Heather, it seems like the foreclosures are for the purpose of working within the system would only matter if the controllers play by the rules, but they don't. They cheat. So why does it make a difference? I'm not being snotty, I just never understood that part. Or do they play by a different set of rules which we don't understand, in which the foreclosures do matter? And don't or can't they cheat on those rules? Blessings to you and all your kids.
Can I make a suggestion that she go through the archives, or he, I'm not sure who that came from, on 5D and listen to the Beast Vision? For me, that answers that question, because yes, hearing, you're my favourite word, 3D, they don't play by the rules. But even Sacha opened our conversation last week with the energetic, I'm not going to be able to quote him, I can't remember how he put it exactly, but he talked about the energetics of the violence.
You said they're more based on it was an energetic doing.
It was an energetic doing.
More than anything else.
Yeah, and that they cannot live in.
But this is the thing, they do have to follow the rules. They may think they can get around it, but we've seen so many cases where, for example, judges who get it recuse themselves and go, yeah, no, I'm just gonna not take this case, because they know what the rules are. Now, there's always going to be crooked judges. There's always going to be people who are not caring about the energetics.
Please don't say always.
What? Okay, let me rephrase that. There are, at this point, legal people, law enforcement officers, judges who don't care about the energetics, or truly, really don't understand the law. And we see that a lot. But that doesn't make it that they can't follow the rules. They might choose not to, but they still have to.
But this also goes back to what we talked about last week with Sacha, in terms of when he said, how do we move forward, or do we need to really move forward when it comes to law, about putting it all on paper? And your response was, it's done. It's already done. The energetic bookkeeping is in motion always has been.
Yep.
We call it karma, and people will go, karma, but it's bigger and deeper and more immediate than any kind of fluffy idea we've been given of karma.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, when I did the investigations, legal team dropped out, budget dropped out. The thing that I found very interesting, I had, I don't know, maybe 11 cases at the time, all running simultaneously. And I realized that I was in there for one purpose. It wasn't to win cases. It wasn't to make a revenue stream by a law practice that looked at foreclosures. I have to tell you, foreclosures, real estate law, contract law, every single area of law has been compartmentalized so that not one attorney or even judge actually gets the whole picture. Mm-hmm. So it's very refined. Even in law school, they don't allow you to pick an emphasis. They don't allow you to get a law degree specifically in this or that, or you have to just get your law degree. And I never understood that. I had certain focus when I went into law school, and they were like, you have to do it all. You have to do it all so that, you know, you get the overall picture. And it wasn't until I was in the investigations that I really sort of appreciated that and wished I had done what I was told, because I didn't. I focused on tax and litigation. That's it. But when I went into these things, they were like, you have to win, you have to win. Charlie and all those guys were like, you have to win, you have to do this or that. I was only in there for one thing, data. I was in there to figure out how to end all of it, okay? And I learned that. So there were times when, and people would always say during the shows that we did, I did find all these cases that she had. There's tons of them on there. She didn't win any of them. And I was like, we weren't supposed to. I was supposed to get the data and then just walk out, find out where the next piece. I had to do it very, very quickly and cover an area of law or areas of law that I had never touched before. You know, and law is a game. It is not real. Okay? It's the legal system, which is completely bastardized. And it's illusionary in the first place. It's an illusion in the first place, okay?
Corporatized too.
There's no difference, okay? Everyone thinks, oh, admiralty law, maritime law, common law, and all of this, and none of it actually was applicable. It was all commercial. You know, did I know that when I started out with the investigations as far as what they were using, how they were actually getting it, and all of this? No. These aren't areas that they actually cover in law school. These aren't areas that they actually teach you at your law firm. You're just given a script and you said, this is how you do it. If you take an off script, you see attorneys get really freaked out. You see judges get very freaked out. Clerks get very freaked out. So it was an experience that I'd never had before. And I would literally walk into a courtroom and the judge would ramrod it anyways. It was just rubber stamps all the way through, except for that one judge that I talked about. Love him. And it'd be like, right, okay. And I would know inside when I had the piece that case was actually supposed to bring out for me. And I literally would walk out of the courtroom saying, it's your choice whether you're going to be corrupt. I can't help you make that choice. You have to do it on your own, but I will accept the evidence that you choose to be corrupt. Thank you so much. And I'd walk out and they'd have no idea what to do. And I had lawyers that started to follow along, as well as just everyday people. What I mean by everyday people, moms, teachers, even doctors. I even had people from the U.S. Treasury supposedly asking me later on when before I came to Morocco, that wanted help because their houses were now going down. You know, they wanted to know how to go through. And for me, it just felt like if I'm going to be distracted, if I'm going to look at how to win things, how to do this or that, well, what is it really that I want to win? What is the goal? What is the purpose of me even being in court at all? And I realized, number one, recognize where I am, know who I am, and know who the other person is in front of me. Literally going into a courtroom is like me being called to McDonald's in front of a cashier and told that I owe $1 million or $1 for something I never received. And then telling me I owe it and having cops behind me going, you owe them, you owe McDonald's. That's a silly analogy, I get it, but it's the truth. It is an actually accurate analogy. Okay, so when I go into court, I would look to see what data do I need. As soon as I had it, I was out of there. I didn't care what they did. I didn't care what they did with the house. I didn't care what they did with the criminal charges. I didn't care what they did with any of it. All I knew was I was in there to grab as much data as I could and only the data that was relevant. And there is a sea of data, disinformation data that they put in so that you never figure it out. Okay, so my whole purpose was just to get it done, period. Not talk about it, not create a revenue stream, not create education classes, just get it done. And I had a lot of help, so that part of it is all done. What do? I personally will never walk into another purported courtroom until they tell me who they are and why, what basis they feel that I have to show up to their McDonald's cashier counter. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it because I have other things that I need to do. I have other things that I need to do. And right now, it's paying attention to me, and as she said, the body, the vessel, the vehicle, that skin. That's exactly how I feel. Right now, I know the power of what was done. Nobody has to tell me, nobody has to validate it, and really, there's no competent purported court on the planet that could, quote unquote, validate what was done, because it goes against their interests. Okay? And yet, at the same time, it doesn't go against their interests. What I mean by that is, for me, everyone is I am, and they will show what is. There's UCC experts that they had under FBI protection back in 2012. Do I know they exist? Yes. They were interviewed for the UN Peace Day, which a good friend of mine, Michael Short, actually produces. And he had the tapes and everything else, and it was during a time where they were trying to take down all the filings that we were doing because we messed up their derivatives paper, we messed up their commercial paper, we messed up the private paper, the trades, and everything else. And actually it started even before that, when Charlie Miller pierced the insurance veil. No matter what anyone wants to think, he, as much as every one of us, and as much as everyone who hasn't even been named or seen yet, we're all a part of this. Okay, so really just focus on you, your family if you have one, but really focus on you because you're the one that has it inside of you and you can bring it out. And actually you have more energy, you feel less tired, and there's less to do all of a sudden. And you get more results. You actually start to see what's changing because you're changing inside. That's the only way you can see what changes outside, because the outside is only a projection of what we have inside. The energetics are absolutely what they have to follow. I had a lot of judges and a lot of people in general that were just like, oh, she has no idea, they have no idea what they're doing, they're a bunch of constitutionalists. I still don't know what that word means. A lot of constitutionalists, a lot of patriots, a lot of this or that. What does it matter as long as the job's done? And I have just watched, I walk away. Once the job is done, I'm knowing inside it's done, I walk away and I focus on something else. And yet they keep trying to drag me in to answer. Like, I'll be honest with you, I really don't feel like answering any questions about UCC, about money, banks, or any of that, because it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant, but I get that it's relevant for others, although I know that there are others that are triggering for them.
Well, then let me use this one question to satisfy many of the other questions around the UCC, so we don't have to get too deep into it and spend too much time here. You just touched on it. You actually talked about it in a Skype room recently. This question came through. It said, many people feel there's a need to educate people on the UCC filings. You have shared publicly on Skype that there is nothing to teach. If the judicial and law enforcement, etc., are still in full swing, can you elaborate on why that is?
Can I just add one little thing? This is because you and I discussed this actually a couple of weeks ago. Is putting ourselves back to those first moments when we found out about the filings in the very first shows, in the very first interviews. And I still had the comment section on RTS open. And I had all these people, writing in, emailing, Skyping, saying, what do I do next? How do I fill out this? And how do I do it? Do I file my own UC? And I just kept going, no, I'm pretty sure it's all done. And I can remember actually sending Heather a Skype message going, we're not supposed to do anything, am I? Like, is there like a form I'm supposed to be filling in? And she was like, no. I was like, okay, right. I got it right the first time. It's all done. There's nothing to do. It's done.
Right.
And I literally at that point was like, throw away the script. Awesome. It's all done.
Yeah, and I remember a lot of people had questions, and of course, because people were spending the energy to actually become conscious about that particular material, not that they aren't conscious beings, conscious about that material, I spent the time to answer those questions. By the time you guys came to Morocco that first time, you saw what I looked like. I think Bill even posted a picture of it. It was really bad. I hadn't slept in months, really. And the thing was that the energy that people spend to make this done, make visible what is done, I should say, it's energy that I absolutely appreciate. So with the UCC, there was nothing left to fill out. And no matter how many times I said it, no matter how many times I said, it's done. And everyone could feel the finality in my tone. They could feel the finality in the word itself, the energy that I packed into it. And it's not changed, okay? The only thing that's kept anything alive is perception. You pay energy into the police as far as being police and letting them do their jobs, they're gonna keep doing it. You know, when you can actually see them as a human being, as a being, you know, beyond this suit, then that's when you actually have these interactions. Sacha even brought that up. You know, his interactions with these police officers, and they're just humans. You see past the suit. You know, when I started to see I had a different experience with the judges than most because I worked with them. And some of them are my good friends, and I see them as human beings. I was never nervous around judges. I'm not nervous around ministers or not religious ministers. I'm talking minister, government, official type ministers. They're just human beings. That's always helped me be able to do the job that I need to do. So if you're going to say that something exists, well, let me ask. Is it because you're going into court? Is it because you're paying the energy to walk across their threshold and walk up to their McDonald's cashier register so that you can be handed this or that? It just is what you want to pay energy into, and that's what you're going to see because you choose to. So pay energy into something else. Create something new, and if something comes along, I get it. You know, what is the house? What is the car? I get feeding your family. I get all this, but I can tell you after watching everyone do what they do and me doing what I do, I may not talk about it in public and all of that. I don't care if anyone knows my story because that's for me. But I don't pay energy into those things anymore. I walked away. I walked away to do something different, change the result. I got to change the formula. So what are you paying energy into? Because that's what you're going to see.
I understand that. What do you say to the person, because I get emails from these people quite frequently, to the person that is being harassed and threatened by the court system, that has a family that they have to take care of, that if they don't go into that phony fictitious courtroom, they're going to be arrested and locked up and thrown into jail. And you say care about your family, but their fear is that their family won't be provided for if they don't follow the system because of the fear of consequence in standing up to the system that is all just a facade and illusion anyways. What do these people do when they're in situations like that, where they're being kind of forced into compliance when they know in their heart that that's not, they have more options than to...
What I say to them is this. Pay energy into whatever you're feeling at that moment. If you feel you have to go into that courtroom, that reporter courtroom, then go. If you feel you have to go in and respond to this or pay this or whatever it is, if that's what you're moved to do, go ahead. And I say that because nothing I say will change how you feel until you decide to change how you feel and change what you choose. I'm not here to do for others. I'm here to do for me the best that I can in order to change things, yes. But I'm not here to sit there and go, okay, let me put my attorney cap back on because I don't think they're going to accept me back after what I've done. But you know, let me put my attorney cap on and let me go do this for you. Because I can tell you, most attorneys that I've met really don't care. They're there for billing hours. They're there to provide for their families, and it doesn't matter whether you win or lose. It doesn't. In the end, they still get their paycheck. Okay, so for me, my profession did not fit for my own being, but it sure as heck helped me go and do what I needed to do with what I am passionate about. So if something doesn't feel right, if you feel pressure, fear, or anything else, that's what you're choosing to choosing to feel. And there's nothing that myself or anyone else can change about that until you choose to change that for you. So go into court. Meanwhile, myself, others that are okay with not going into court, not doing paying taxes or whatever it may be. I don't know. When Sacha brought up the tax thing, I laughed because Peter Schiff is a guy that's always on CNN and Squawk Box and all this other stuff, who married my cousin, Stephanie Kreisman. Mm-hmm. And his dad, back in the 70s, tried to tell everyone. He was a financial guru. He was incredibly well known in all the financial circles. One of the families, Schiff is one of the families, not the 13 families, but one of the families, the lineages. And he tried to tell everyone, back in the 70s, taxes are not mandatory. This is a scam. This is a scheme. So they throw him in a prison, supposedly. Nobody's seen hide nor hair from him. And Peter sells this role so that he can go out and do what he's doing right now, which is high trade, bank, and finance. Mm-hmm. You know, and he's got Euro Capital Bank in Cayman Islands and all this other stuff. But you know what? It's okay. Peter's doing what Peter feels to do. And it doesn't matter what he chooses to do. I see it. What matters is what I choose to do. What matters is what I choose to feel. What matters is the choices that I make. But I still love Peter for what he's doing, and I still love the people that feel fear for going in the courts because it's letting it go, it's releasing it. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, the rest who feel moved to do something else, choose to do something else, will do it even more so because we see people feeling fear and feeling like they have to go into a court. And see people like Peter going in and still playing in the system and making it so that it's slavery and terrible for everyone else. It's okay, because it drives me even more to keep doing what I'm doing and go hard and fast. So do what you feel. I'm not going to tell anyone else to do something different.
I have a personal experience that I can share around this. You know, from doing all the radio shows that we've done, I've talked about it frequently. Here, you want to sweat.
It's so hot.
What's that? When I tell people about the story about not paying my taxes, not registering my car, not paying for insurance, or putting plates on my car, a common question is, they'll say, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do if they come after you? What are you going to do if you get pulled over and you got no plates and you got no registration, you have no insurance? And my response was, well, what good is it serving me if I have fear around what the consequences or repercussions are?
Right.
And I said, well, they said, well, that's fine, but what if you do get pulled over? And I said, well, if the universe wants to punish me for standing in my own power by getting me pulled over without plates or registration on my car, then I'll just have to cross that bridge when I come to it.
Exactly.
And because of that, because of the total release, at least from my perception and perspective, the total release of that fear, for a year and a half I drove and I never got pulled over once. And so I never had to deal with that issue. And so, you know, when I have these conversations with people and they're sharing these kind of stories with me, I could tell, I could sense that there is still that, even a very subtle layer of fear under there that's provoking them to continue to follow suit with this this illusion that has been set up to keep us committed to following through with these processes that we know don't make sense. So it is a personal journey, and everybody is going to approach that in their own way, in their own time, and based on their own levels of comfort. So there isn't any right or wrong way of doing it. It's a journey for everybody, and the sooner that people can start to realize that you have more than one choice. You know, awareness is about making what is perceived to be one or two choices a myriad of choices that's available in every moment, depending on how we decide that we want to move forward. And when you are educated and when you do start to raise your awareness levels, then your choices become infinite, and you can go in any number of different ways. And that is where, you know, the empowerment comes from, to start to take back that power that we thought was stolen from us, but really what was really happening was what we were giving it away. And so it's not really taking back anything, it's just reclaiming what's always been there.
Wow, I actually have 3 things I want to say now. So do I. Firstly, people asking, you know, what do I do with the fines? You know, where do I lodge them? Where do I file them? And even this question now of essentially still wanting that magic bullet, because prior to the trust and its filings, there were so many different, what were being termed technologies out there for getting out of the system, fighting the system, rebutting the system, dealing with the court, dealing with, and it was all very, very, it was buried in paperwork. It was all about the forms and the wording and the paperwork. I mean,
Process.
Process.
3 days. You missed this.
And
over.
you only have to go
72
down 2 or 3 of
hours.
these roads before you're buried in paperwork.
And paying lots of money to be able to get the information on how to do these processes.
So that to me was an obvious question. There has to be something for me to fill in, and there has to be something for me to find. And that is still carrying forward in that externalization of where's that magic piece of paper that's going to do it for me. And there isn't one.
There is a magic bullet.
Yeah, but it's not on a piece of paper.
There's a magic bullet.
That's the first of these.
Proverbial magic bullet. We are all the magic bullet.
Yes.
I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
I did the filings the way that they were done, and I pulled them from within. It took all my multidimensional self to do it, or the source that I am. It took all of them, okay? Because I didn't want to leave one stone unturned, and I didn't ever want it to be where it could be taken back, okay? So I spent the energy, spent the time, and felt like I was going against a tsunami the entire time because of my own personal situation. At the same time, all that mattered was that we'd never be here again. We'd never do this again, okay? It does not matter, and I told you guys this for even today. We were sitting there and asked about what can I send these debt collectors or whatever it may be, and it's like, send them this. If you want, it's whatever you feel good. Stand up and just say your piece to them. It was already done, and I did it in such a way, we all did it in such a way, that no matter what would happen, how long it would take for people to see something different, choose something different, that the ones that were running the former systems couldn't move. Okay, Caleb used the phrase starving the beast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but it's not that people are the beast, it's not that human beings are the beast. It was the
The
beast
system.
of the system that we actually all implemented. We chose to implement so we could have fun taking it down. Now, I know people are going to get upset about me using the word fun there. When it's all said and done, you'll see how fun and rewarding it actually was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So it doesn't matter what people feel about the filings, nothing had to be done. In fact, Chris Hales, Scott, and Ken Bardo all contacted me. Everyone was writing saying, what can I do? What can I do? I need to do something. And I'm like, nobody will believe me that I say it's all done. And it's okay, but I understood that people wanted to find a way for them to show for a tool to bring themselves out. So what I did was I opened up the old toolbox and just said, okay, well, I explained to Scott, Ken, and Chris Hales, here's where we were right before I came to Morocco. Loie and Jimmy, my mom and my stepdad and my dad, who raised me, were being attacked. In order to keep me distracted long enough so I wouldn't keep doing what I was doing and I would help my mom and dad. When I said that everyone's been playing a part of this, I'm telling you, everyone has. So I just knew I had to stay very focused, but I gave them what I had, which was this invoicing thing. I just was like, great, you want me to pay this, then show me a loan was made. And there were 4 points, which in banking have to be proved for all the banks. That's why you usually go get a letter of comfort or a letter of performance, proof of performance before you buy a house, saying, oh yeah, we can do this. I have funds in the bank and they're good, clean, unencumbered, non-terrorist activities, all the buzzwords, right? And the thing is, they actually have to show you all the way to the issuance of that dollar bill or of that euro. And they'd have to show you for that euro that it actually is backed by a Federal Reserve note over here, which is backed by this human body over here. They'd have to show you all that. Okay, so
Which they won't do.
Which they won't do. So they took this tool of the invoicing where I said, fine, show me this. And if you can't, here's 800,000 that you owe plus triple damages. Okay, show me this. And if you can't, here's 800,000 plus triple damages. And I had shown them and given them those tools. Now, Chris Hales, Ken, and Scott Barlow came up with the courtesy notice, what everyone knows is a courtesy notice. And they asked me to do this, to look at it and harmonize it to make sure they wrote the UCC filings incorrectly. And that's the only thing I helped them with. But everything else, was then taking old tools, being inspired however they were. And I tell you, even though I knew the courtesy notices were irrelevant as far as shutting down the system, it was totally relevant in helping shift perceptions. The person that actually wrote them, the person that received them, and the person who was the boss of the person that received them, having to answer the questions, and all this notice of people like saying, oh, I had this situation and this worked, this didn't work, and all of a sudden people are communicating for something that is really here, and it's about something so much bigger than funny money. Mm-hmm. So there's so many tools. Just go with what you feel. Go with what resonates with you. I got pulled over by cops all the time, and I handled it differently each and every time. It was whatever I could imagine, you know. Oh, maybe this time I'll try this, or maybe this time I'll do this. And it was always, I was having a giggle by the time I was done. It wasn't always fun while I was there, but it just got to the point where it was like, oh, did I commit a felony? No. Oh, is there a warrant out for my arrest? And he goes, well, I need your license to see your name. Oh, good, because I know those are the only two reasons you can pull me over. You know, it's just whatever fun like came over, and they just kind of sit there. It's so nice of you to pull me over to say hi. I love you too. And they'd just be kind of like, oh, what the hell just happened? You know, and that was one of them. The other one was me sitting there going, you know, being in a country where I don't have a license. I don't have a license at all. I let it expire because I knew I didn't need one. And I get pulled over in a country that I don't speak the language.
I've been there for this one too. It's been a lot of fun.
And I have the Kingsmen, literally the Kingsmen, pulling me over and asking me for this, that, or the other, and I'm just like, ah. And somehow they get discombobulated because I'm using the energetics. I use the energetics. I don't even bother with papers anymore. It's just, by the time I'm done, they're like, you know, either that or they just walk off going, oh, I can't believe this, you know, and they just leave. So I'm more on the energetics. I don't sit there and do the paperwork anymore. I'm done. When I said I wasn't going to write any more paper, I'm not writing any more paper. Just be yourself.
Can I ask you a question about that?
About
It's a perfect tie-in question to what you just said.
Here we go.
This one says, Heather, as someone who has read all the documents you have released since 2012, it seems to me that your material is more like a cosmic download from another dimension than a complex series of legal filings. Can you elaborate as to where your data and inspiration comes from in your process for getting it out?
Literally from within. When I say go within, I'm not joking with you guys. That's where I went to go get all those words I put on paper, to get all the concepts that I need to get, to make sure I had the full picture. I literally went within, did a lot of, not even meditation, but just really asking myself, what do I know? You know, I want to see what is, not what I want it to be, not what I'm told, but what is. And then it would just show itself. Sometimes it would take, in the beginning it took weeks, literally weeks. And then it would take less time and less time and less time and less time as I trusted myself and trusted the universe. That's where I got it from, was within. So maybe now you stop giving me such a hard time when I say
doubt it.
I'll pass that on to the...
No, not to you.
To you.
This is for you.
You know that was his question.
Yeah, he wrote
He
that.
probably wrote that.
He did. He already read it to Lisa and I before you got here.
Okay, and that's a literal description as well as, I mean, it's just the honest truth. That's where I got it.
I was going to share that when you shared you were being pulled over by police, I've got 2 examples. I consciously let my license expire as well, and I drove for a couple of months with this, I don't know, a centre about it every time I got in my car. Not a problem. I got in my car one day, and for whatever reason, I double checked that I had certain paperwork in the glove box, which was what to hand to a cop. Of course, I got out of the driveway around the corner, and there it was. And so I knew that was coming. I created that so beautifully, and it ended up with him walking away and telling me which direction he was going to drive in, so that I could go that way. And then just recently, my trip back to Australia, no license. The car is perfectly fine. It's registered, my daughter's car. I was there 2 days. I got in 7 o'clock in the morning to go and sungaze as I'm driving back. I'm like, what? So the cop pulls up and I go, hi, what's up? And he goes, well, you're driving without number plates on, for one. I went, no, I'm not. He said, yeah, you are, front and back, no plates. I go, no. So I get out of the car, I go, sure, there's no plates. They had been stolen the night before off the car. Just so the first time I go to get in it and drive it without a license. And so we have a conversation, and it was very much like, this is fuck, they got stolen. That's the only explanation. The car is registered. So he went and checked it, and he came back, and, yeah, sure, the car is registered, but you have no license. really? But the whole thing ended up with him
That
saying,
gets stolen
I'm
too.
driving that way. In both cases, it ended up with me walking away and then giving me the okay wink to drive off.
Yeah.
But again, it was a situation of I just talked to him like a person.
Yeah.
And at 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm wearing my pajamas. I've got no phone, no money, no nothing, and I'm about 4 miles from home. And I explained that to him, and he went, well, I'm not supposed to let you drive, but I'm going that way. So, okay. So it is about where you're at when you're in those situations. And I know I can't remember what the third point was. Oh, something about attachments. But anyway, you had something you wanted to add.
Well, I was going to comment, going back to the whole thing about courtesy notices and people wanting to do
It's
something.
amazing that they do.
And when we talked about it on the radio shows, we talked about the notices and put them out on removing the shackles, etc., on different sites. And one of the things I said to people was like, if you feel moved to use this, great. If you don't, then don't.
Just a tool.
It's just a tool. And I've had, over the last year and a half, I mean, so much, even to this day, people still using them. And you get people who send you messages going, oh, I did it, and I still lost whatever it was, whether it was a car or a student loan, whatever the problem was, or whatever they were dealing with and using that tool. But there are so many more as well. I mean, just in my own Skype room in the last month, I think we've had 3 different people who've been like, woohoo! I just got the notice that my student debts have been like, they're just like, oh, just go away, please just go away.
Yeah, they erased them, and Citibank erased the mortgages.
Citibank and mortgages.
I have loads
And
of
that has to do
documents.
with people. It has to do with them standing up and just saying,
And not only
the
that,
compounding.
yeah, and compounding, exactly. The path was paved. When you have millions, and we know that there was literally millions of courtesy notices put out there, it played a huge part in putting the system on notice and waking other people up. Like you said, it was like, you may get the customer service guy who gets this thing and goes, what the hell is this?
Do you remember the foreclosure flyer?
Yeah, exactly.
There was one guy in Australia, God love him, and he must have spent 12 hours a day doing nothing but he would collect emails.
Foreclosure flyer?
There was a foreclosure flyer that was created.
Yeah.
There
It
was
was a one-page document.
one page, and it was just a really
Nice,
succinct
succinct.
synopsis of what had happened.
I
And
didn't see
he said that he would sit down and collect emails, all these different companies. He would pick a department and go, right, today it's the health department, today it's whatever, for a
Everything's
state.
great.
And he just slammed that department. He must have sent, I don't know how many thousands of courtesy notices around Australia. Just one guy.
It's like a one-man flash mob.
Yeah, one man flash.
One man flag.
And day after day after day, and he would message me and say, "Oh, that's such a great day today," you know, and everybody in the department, and tell everybody in that department to go to the person above them, and they all be going, "Yeah, I got it too. Shit, where do we go now?" And it just worked. It's worked its way out, and that sort of behaviour went on a lot.
Phenomenal educational tool.
It
Oh,
was.
incredible.
It
That was
was.
along with the courtesy notice as an example,
Mm-hmm.
and saying things like, "You may get one of these in the future. This is what it means."
the power that went through. I remember getting a call from a couple of different of my intel sources, and it was around the time that there was that whole Saint Germain thing with Jerry Burnham trying to mirror the Saint Germain trust and steal the accounts, and the guy from DOD, right?
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there, and everyone's just like, "Yeah, these courtesy notices," and this apparently really pissed Jerry Burnham off that Australia was just
Boom.
going wild, and it was destroying plans that they had for basically what people call New World Order, depopulation, all of this, because people were starting to be aware. I mean, literally, I joke about you guys being the only crazy people to come visit me here, but really it is because they are afraid. It only takes a thought and they're gone. It does. It only takes a thought and they're gone, and they know that, and that's where everything's coming to. That's why it's so important you be conscious about what you're thinking about, and that you deal only with compassion and love. today was a very hard day for me, and compassion and love was going. I was hearing Sacha's voice going, compassion, 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 because
She won, I lost the battle. I'm sorry, I had to go and put myself in timeout. It was a very, very sad
it was
thing.
beautiful though. Now I have those tones in my head. So, but it was this phenomenal tool, and they were very upset because Australia at that point had put out hundreds of thousands of courtesy notices.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know about all the courtesy notices that had gone out because I was so busy doing the other stuff that we were doing, and I was like, really? And they were like, yeah, Jerry is like flipping. He's flipping right now, and a lot of things that were planned can't be implemented, and so they're trying to figure out what to do. I think it might have been the second time they played the Syria template. How many times have they played it? Like 7 or 8?
This is where they're gearing up again. For Syria, again, it's about to go again. Everyone just watch. Trust me on this one.
So,
this will be about the 6th time.
Oh my God, okay.
Yeah.
So it was still fresh at that point, right? So everyone's just kind of like, people are suffering everywhere. I get that. I'm not ignoring it.
No.
But it makes me go harder and faster.
Yeah.
And I see that it's happening, and all I know is that we all agreed to be here on this planet doing this. And making it done so it's never, and making the doneness visible so that it never happens again. So that courtesy notice was a fabulous tool. The foreclosure flyer, I never got to see it, but everyone brings it up. And is that before or after the courtesy notice?
It was probably
before.
Before, I believe, yeah.
Well, then it was used in conjunction.
And then a lot of people sent them out together, like the foreclosure flyer with the courtesy notice, like, here you go, have a present.
You know those mail lists that you can buy if you have a corporation and you want to
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, that was hands down the most historical mail list operation ever done, was those courtesy notices. And Italy only started to do all those at the beginning of this year.
Yep.
And I remember people calling up going, we just sent out 100,000, it was over the weekend. They go, we just sent out 110,000 courtesy notices. And we have another 500,000 ready to go. And I'm like, what? And they go, yeah, we just found out about them. I'm like, what? I was like, you're kidding me. But it was a tool that for them was now. Whereas for like Australia, it was how long ago? So you have all these people that had already done it and gone through you're crazy, I have no idea what this is, we refuse to accept it. And so you have the Australians who now can help the Italians, or the Australians and the Americans, and because there are a lot of countries that have already done it by then.
Yeah.
And you had Karen Hudis going in trying to, because it's not an English-speaking country, so maybe they haven't heard that all her questions and all her rhetoric and everything else had already been addressed, but not translated yet. So how much time do I have before translation happens? Okay, right, go. And I love Karen. I had a lot of fun without even having direct contact, because she would only send me messages through other people. It seems to happen a lot. And so
I can't imagine.
I've never had direct contact with her, but I really do enjoy watching all this go down. The people are so powerful, and there's so much help from all around.
Yeah.
That's the thing. No one's alone.
We're inadvertently going to start another courtesy notice wave as a result of this. People are watching and like, what is a courtesy notice? Just Google it.
Just Google it. Trust me, there's a lot of hits.
Is there any chance of another round of coffees?
Can we stop for a
half a
second
barrel.
so I can use the restroom?
People break.
I suppose that we could grant you that request. Blue Star?
If not, it's
That's
not
the
going
beauty
to
of
be
pre-recorded.
That's right.
Okay, break.
One camera off, audio about to be off.
You guys ready to get serious?
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to change gears a little bit with this next question. I know this one's a big one for some people. So this person wrote in on Facebook. Dear Heather, with your assistance, we learned that we the people are the value. Is there any bank or institution that will honor the UCC filings and give we the people representations of our value in the form of money or currency? And then, what advice can you give to people still working on a way to repurpose the banks by using the documents to access their value?
Okay, banking at Seraph, I think I've been very clear on the website that I created just for archive purpose, or for people to know what it was if they asked me for tools that I felt needed to go out or that I put out, was that the financial system, the former systems in general, financial systems specifically to this question, were designed so that they would succeed in failing.
Yeah.
in order for everyone to experience the value. And really even the word value is an illusion, because how do you put a value on what we actually are and what we can do, okay? You're definitely more than the sum of what you produce. The banking systems are not meant to be repurposed, and it has been specifically chosen that they will not be repurposed, okay? There will be no banking. In fact, all the bankers in December, when I did have a conversation with Raymond, was that they didn't want banking. But how do you move forward? There has to be a bridge. Well, you know, this guise of a bridge. The people are the bridge. You don't need a new financial system for a bridge, for you to be able to know who you are. All they have to do is two things. One, tell you there was never any debts. No such thing as a debt system. And number two, say that you are the value and tell you about the energetics, which all the highest levels of banking and purported governments know. All they have to do is tell you those two things. And all of a sudden, how much freer do you think people would feel just knowing that information alone?
I think people are just having a hard time getting their heads around or even imagining day-to-day exchange without something tangible to do that exchange with.
But even an exchange is an illusion.
Yeah.
Okay? There's only one. That's all it is. One in many embodiments.
Mm.
You have to have two or more parties, which is why the whole form of systems are predicated on two or more. Separation, that's all. So there is no such thing as exchange. There is only experiencing you through seemingly other embodiments. That's all there is. You can hear me now and you can experience it later. It just depends on how you choose to see it. And really seeing, for me, is feeling.
I hope people really get what you just said, because that was really, really profound.
At midnight, smoking in the Moroccan lounge.
Yeah. If people get that, if people actually get what you just said, that changes everything.
Well, this is, you can't, I see this all the time where people are trying to base what they see in this perceived future of no money, but they're basing it on everything in this now that they see. How
They're basing it on their past
in
experience.
their past experience.
Yeah.
You can't move forward by basing things on your past experience. It's about complete change and moving forward. Not doing it again, right? We've been there, we've done that. It's done. Don't want to do it again.
In conjunction with the IM documents, or what have become to be known as the IM documents, Caleb had asked me to do a contract for Project 13 dealing with credit card processing. Okay, because it was the $1 a month and all of that, and they needed to do credit card processing. And a man named Hunter and his group, actually they were based in California, but they're all Hawaiian, and so we just called them the Hawaii group. And he's former Navy, I believe, former military, former Navy, I can't remember. And he had all these contacts, and he wasn't even transparent with his own group about what his contacts were. Just based on the dealings, I knew that whatever was going to happen was that the contract issue, which is a very prevalent one because it requires two or more parties for a contract. And so I figured, okay, I'll deal with that. And because the IM documents were going simultaneously, I was working on those. Caleb's contract didn't get done exactly when he wanted it done, and so he was screaming at me from other rooms, not in tone, but energetically. I could feel him. And what was cool about it was to really, especially as an attorney, a former attorney and a lawyer, they're two different things, is sitting there going, okay, contract, two more people. If we're in one and it's only one, how does this look? And actually when you go into, I love Bouvier's dictionary, that's what all the judges use, it's under their desks. They don't even use Black's Law. Black's Law is for the people, so that they can stay discombobulated and completely confused, okay? And so if you go back there and you look, contract is a perfect obligation. Now, perfect obligation, I know perfectly. So I just sat there going, right, okay. So take out the second party, it's all one, and that's the declaration of a perfect obligation by IM, which I put on the website so everyone could just see what it looked like. So Caleb hands this off, and he's all excited because he's got the contract finally, and he hands it off to this group. Hunter and those guys don't even read it. They're just happy because they know how much money they think is going to come in for Project 13. And they sign it all, and they don't thumbprint it, they don't do anything, they just sign it. And Caleb was like, you know, they should be thumbprinting this. I go, well, what happens is when they thumbprint, it works as an identification, self-identification, that they've read it, that it's them. They can't say, oh, I didn't sign that, and all of this. So there was a reason for that. And so Caleb's like, well, I want this done just once. I don't want any problems. Everything I do is just straightforward, so I want them to be straightforward. Either they want to do this or they don't. So he sends it back and says, okay, guys, either you want to do this or you don't, thumbprint it or not. I don't, you know, it doesn't matter to me. However you want to do it. So they go in, they thumbprint it, and they still haven't really read it, because I know if they really read it, especially Hunter, who's contacts and like ran it up, and which is telling me he doesn't really know what he's playing with at that point. And so I was just kind of like, okay, so I sat quietly, just seeing where it was going to go, and I didn't say anything, because Caleb was, you know, so happy at that point, and it was a really nice moment, because he's not yelling at me, you know, energetically. And so I just kind of sat there, and I was like, we'll see how this goes. Maybe Hunter can pull it off. I don't think he can. He's not high enough on the totem pole, and if he was high enough on the totem pole, he wouldn't have even made the phone call in the first place, right? And accepted the offer to go in and do it. So I'm sitting there. It supposedly is going through. They signed, they thumbprint, everything's going to go forward. They actually had the credit card processing because they have supposedly hundreds of thousands of clients, and they basically use a Swiss pattern as far as corporations within corporations, veils, this or that. You deposit into their general account, so it's in their name, and then they sub-count within the books, the ledgers. Well, they sign this contract, everything's ready to go, and they go to start it, and then about a week later, or something like that, Caleb's like, they just contacted me, listen to this email, and he's like, hi, something to the effect of, hi, we're so sorry to tell you this, but like all of our abilities to credit card processing for all of our clients got revoked. Not just for Project 13, but for everyone. And I was like, oh. And I just kind of sat there in the corner, knowing exactly what had happened, because if you read that perfect obligation, it really, it tells you what it is. It's one, there's only one. There's no such thing as contract. Sacha even brought that up. It goes against the very fiber, something to the effect, and I'm sorry that I'm not quoting this directly because it really resonated when you said it, is that it goes against the fabric of the soul, or the vibration of the soul, to have to contract with anyone, to exchange with anyone, because it's all one. Yeah. There's no such thing as contracts. There's no such thing as exchange. It's experience. Yeah. That's it. So that's... Shit, I don't even remember. I don't even remember the question anymore.
No, that was good. This next couple of questions, actually, Dee, you'd probably be good to jump in on this. I'm going to bunch three up to knock them all out at the same time. From your perspective, can you share what may occur when the U.S. cannot meet its perceived debt obligation payments this month in September of 2014?
You mean in the next
also,
12 days?
Also, why do you think Jonathan Betts stopped doing deals with the White House at the end of July? And what do you think will be the next major events to take place in the global financial scene?
Oh, I can answer this one.
How did they know Jonathan was stopping the deals? I didn't
Because we talked about that.
I think some of the friends over here. It was posted somewhere. It was in one of the things
I didn't Skype it anywhere. I did send an email to Zap, Susan, and Proof. Just
okay,
to say thank
that
you.
Middle question
That's
was...
very interesting.
And I sent it to Dr. Todd, who's the one, Dr. Todd.
Let's not go there.
Yes, so there's no two people. I never mentioned anything about Jonathan.
That's very interesting, isn't it?
I think I might have mentioned the Jonathan Betts thing.
Here we go. Again.
Anyways.
Okay.
It's going to be very, very interesting to watch how this plays out. The thing with Jonathan was very, very simple is
I love him.
They pushed the button and nothing happened. So the RV button got pushed and
No, suppose he didn't. Now grandfather was the one that was.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I can't keep up with it.
Anyways,
it might be Ronald McDonald.
They've pushed the button several
no
times.
to any more trades in anticipation of the button being pushed.
This button being pushed. That was kind of code, right? If it's like, oh yes, if
that's
you
the
have your
RV
thing
button
in by June 30th, right? Exactly. And they pressed the button and nothing happened.
I hope Jonathan's
nothing. Sorry guys. Nothing And that's why the historical bonds are still not being traded in.
Well,
Okay, so
okay, wait
what- so
a
what
minute,
happens
wait a
when
minute.
you
The
list
historical
something?
bonds,
Yeah.
that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. That is
But people
actually-
don't even know what historical bonds actually
No,
are.
and that's what I was going to say. That's actually something we should touch on. because
They don't even know what historical bonds actually are, not even those
No.
in some of the highest levels of finance.
No, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Zap talks about historical bonds cashing in and all the rest of it, but the vast majority of people actually have no clue what they are.
Yeah. Okay, so let's not address that
First
right
part of
now.
the question though, what happens when the US can't meet its obligations in 12 days?
I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see. Though I think they're just going to try and fluff off something else.
Like they always do.
Like they always do. Like it's like, you
I
know.
think we can imagine
Let's
something
imagine
really
something
magical and
fantastical.
fantastical for us to do, and just let that all peter out.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to pay energy into it, okay.
No.
But I can think of something much more magical and fantastical to do than sit there and watch something retire. We've held the hand. We've energetically and physically held the hand as the financial systems and the former systems retire. I don't want this. It's sort of like the whole people were saying Gaza, and I got emails about that and Skypes. Heather, why aren't you doing something about this? And you know, people are suffering in Gaza and all this other stuff. I go hard, I go fast in ways that I can imagine. I know that some of this stuff goes on. Like Ukraine is basically a CGI when they had the budget, and then it just
When
went
they had
wrong.
the budget, and then, oh, quick, we need an Ebola scare.
Yeah,
Because the Ukraine, we ran out of budget for CGI. Okay.
well, and that's the thing is that we're not ignorant. We see it, we see all that stuff, but if we focus on quote unquote the beast dying, okay, how much
We prolong its death. Yeah.
you prolong its death, and not
It's where
only
you
that,
pay energy to,
you end
right?
up paying energy into that and not into creating something new. Once
I don't give a flying fuck what happens to the U.S. Federal Reserve on
oh,
September
okay,
12th.
I've got to see this. I'm sorry. Just
What
one
happened?
thing.
No, I really don't.
The Federal
I
Reserve,
don't
people
care.
keep writing about the Federal Reserve and everything's moving to the U.S. Treasury. Bye bye Federal Reserve. And I'm like, what? Do they not know the Federal Reserve is the U.S. Treasury and the U.S.
It's the
Treasury
same thing.
is the Federal Reserve?
And who
I was like,
runs
well,
both?
it's been in media. It's in their own charters and books.
Yep.
It's I just don't get it. It's like people saying, oh, the Republic's coming back. It never existed. I don't understand. I'm so happy for all of us to feel the freedom, see the freedom, which we actually have always been free.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just a matter of perception, but I would love to understand the word constitutionalist. I would like to understand how the Federal Reserve is not the U.S. Treasury and the U.S. Treasury is not the Federal Reserve when all documentation shows otherwise.
Yeah.
I would like to know what the Republic, like going back to the Republic, I'd like to know where it existed in the first place. Those are my questions to everybody else. So if you could all write that into Brian, send it to Brian. That's my questions to you.
Okay, here's a fun one. Can you share from your perception who the old man is and what his role is in events unfolding? Why is everyone scared to mention him and what is his motivation?
I don't know. I've been
Who's
talking
scared to
about the
mention
old
it?
man for a year and a half
This
now.
is just written to me.
Oh, okay. When I first started out in bank trade and finance, I'd never heard of the old man. Some people call him grandfather. I have my own experiences, so my love for him, no matter what name, no matter what state of conscious. If you can imagine water, it can be liquid, vapor, or hard, solid, right? Ice, yeah. Everyone is, I think that's an immigration department for US DHS, isn't it?
Come on,
Am
guys.
I screwed?
Pull it together.
Okay, so let's not
It's
start
so
this
late.
again.
It's
Let's
hot.
just- It's hot,
Okay,
and it's
so-
really late at night.
For me, the old man for me, I'll just talk from my own experience. When I first was introduced to the concept, the being of what people call the old man or grandfather, is that he was formerly an emperor of China, known in body as an emperor of China, and then they shifted the dress to a new party dress called communism, but he's still behind everything, okay?
When they call him old, we're talking really old.
We're talking real old.
Yeah, and as far as when, like, Hong Kong would have been the only place that I physically could have met him, at least being aware of possibly meeting him. And instead I met with his daughter and her husband. And the story as it goes, because they were all trying to, first off, they never thought I'd get the meeting set up with anyone in Hong Kong from China, and it was General Wong was the one that I met up with, and so everyone was like, holy crap, she got a meeting with him, and they had to pull everything together because there was actually a meeting, and there was energetics behind that as well, of why he met. I wasn't conscious of them at the time, and so the prepping was this, okay? Heather, the old man, is thousands of years old. Heather, the old man, is in charge of everything, and everything is a triangle. It's a pyramid. It's like a triad. And I go, okay. And I'm getting, and I don't really care about any of this information because it doesn't help me do my job, which is get bankers in line, get them to do the job that they actually were hired to do without taking bribes and without making everyone's life miserable. And the money that they stole, they need to put back into the accounts. And so it was just this mess, right? So I didn't want to hear about some old man that was like from Big Trouble in Little China, where, you know, he watched Super Bowls, and I love Kurt Russell, that was a great movie. Anyways, so I didn't want to have to deal with any of that stuff, and so they kept trying to prep me, and there's so much we need to tell you before you go to this thing. I'm like, well, great, this is where I live. Show up, tell me, because they couldn't, we can't tell you over the phone, we can't tell you over email, we can't tell you over all this. But the thing was, I was the only one that physically was going to Hong Kong to meet with General Wong, so they needed me to be as prepped as I could. Okay, someone will be on the ground to meet with you. Okay, no problem. So I land in Hong Kong, and nobody's there. And I'm like, great. I hop on first I grab a car, and I'm like, could you drive me? And then all of a sudden there's a Mercedes, and the guy goes, over here. And it's something ridiculous. I can't even remember how much money it was. All I remember was going, oh, that's ridiculous. He's like, no, it's Hong Kong dollars. I was like, I don't know what that means. He's like, it's okay. And then you have me pull out my wallet, and he goes, it's this much. And I go, but I only have this much. And I go, that only leaves me this much. Will that buy coffee and cigarettes? And he goes, mm-hmm. And I go, perfect, done. Let's go. Take me to the hotel. And so we get there, and there's this man named Iru. Iru happens, this is what I'm told, okay, is that he happens to be the son of the chief of the indigenous groups in New Zealand. And he is part of this whole thing with the old man's daughter and her husband, because money had been stolen from New Zealand by Australia, the Crown, Queen Lizzie, and all those guys, and that they needed it back, and that the New Zealand tribes are actually related to the old man. And so I'm like, okay, still no clue, no interest at this time, right? Then something happened. I'm sitting there, and General Wong, he's great. He's a really short little guy, just very powerful, very, very powerful. And that's probably the first time I've really experienced in a long time, besides Lowy, energetics. Like that there was something much bigger behind all of this. And so I'm sitting there, and we're having these discussions, and it had to do with after my meeting with General Wong. It actually went really, really well, and I was there with the former aide to Prime Minister Harper, right, from Canada. And this guy had actually been a tax haven expert, and he helped everyone hide their money until they decided that they wanted to bust the guy and then have him give up all the people that he hid their money for, and so he had to hide out in Portugal. So anyway, somehow, some way, he's in China, or in Hong Kong with me, and General Wong at first wouldn't even look at me. He had his translator, and he'd just tell if I'm over there, he'd tell the translator something, and he'd go, and he'd sit there and he'd look this way. And I'm just kind of like, because I like eye contact. It's very important to do eye contact. It's very important to see the body mannerisms, see the body language. The communication comes in so many ways. And so by the time we're all done, because this former aide to Harper lied about something, and General Wong caught him, and I'm sitting there going, what the fuck? I go, are you stupid? I go, he's the head of the, like CIA equivalent, and you're lying to this guy? He knows what color underwear you have on. And the guy's just sitting there, and he's sweating bullets. This guy's tall. David Lowery is really, really tall, and so he's just like sweating bullets. He's been caught by General Wong, and I'm sitting there going, is this guy gonna make it out of Hong Kong? And I'm like, oh no, I'm good. And so he's sitting there, and all of a sudden, I turned to him, I said, okay, set all this aside. I just want to know, I have stuff I need to get done. This is what I need to get done. And I gave him the names of the people that, let's just say I gave him the right names, and all of a sudden he starts talking to me, looking me in the eye, and all this other stuff. And our meeting was only supposed to go a certain amount of time, but I had to meet with the old man's daughter and her husband. General Wong says, I'll come back. I'm coming back at 5. I have a meeting that I have to go to, but I'm coming back at 5. And everyone's sort of looking at me like, he's coming back? Even his translator was like, he's coming back? Because he has his personal translator and his government translator. And he used them both for like 6 years to test whether or not who was lying to him. So this guy is really funny. I really appreciated his energy. He was so fantastic. He comes back at 5. He can't stand the old man's daughter. She's nice. She had a son, so it was a brand new male in the family. So it was a huge deal. That's why the meetings got set back and back. And all I know is General Wong like stands up, slams the table, tells his translator something. The translator comes over and goes, he never wants to meet with her again. He doesn't like her. He'll meet with you. Just keep her out of it. It was like, okay. And then the translator, General Wong leaves, shakes my hand. All I knew how to say was ni hao and ni hao ma, and that gets really boring for the Chinese, apparently, if you say it too much. And so I just kind of sat there, I didn't know what to say. I was just like, thank you very much. I spoke English. And it was just one of those really, it was a great moment, because I do respect General Wong very greatly for everything that's been done, but it's time to move forward. And so he was more interested in gold. They want to buy gold from the old man. And so he had the translator sit down to me. And actually this whole scenario came up this winter when we were doing an energetic, people want to know what I do when I'm not writing documents or doing radio shows with you guys, or having kids.
This is another whole radio show, you know that, right?
No, I know, is multidimensional doings. That's how the enforcement goes in, because that's where all the money system comes from, is the energetics.
Yeah, I'm making some of this public.
You're going to make some of this public, and this is one of them, was that I was sitting there, and General Wong's translator, General Wong, had left, and General Wong's question was to me, if he was going to make all these bankers actually do the job that they were hired to do and put people's money back and all this, was what's in it for China. Because he'll never say what's in it for me, because he's lasted four presidential terms, which they're 10 years long. So he's been there for 4 decades. And he's like, what's in it for China? And I was like, that they do the right thing. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but maybe do the right thing. And so he leaves, the translator sits me down and he says, Heather, he wants you to understand that, the old man's up in the mountain, and I have my coffee and my cigarettes, and I'm just sitting there smoking, because I just had this meeting. I didn't want to smoke in front of General Wong in case he didn't like it. I was told not to offend him. Right, I was just told not to offend him, and they don't give me an idea how not to offend him. I have no idea, so I hadn't smoked, so I was sitting there chain smoking like a fiend, and this translator's telling me, we could go in and get the old man. We're the last line of military before the old man in the mountain. And I'm like sitting there watching him going, we both know this isn't true, because he basically says we could go get him if we wanted to, but we don't out of respect. And I'm just sitting there going, and there was this knowing inside of me, knowing that was an absolute lie, because of the energetics. All of a sudden, that's when I got all the energetics starting to flood in, going, there's no way you could touch the old man. There's no way. And that's when it really hit. So I just sat there kind of going, okay. I left the thing, and they wanted the gold. That's what they wanted. General Wong wanted to buy gold so that they could build up the treasury, because they were planning on getting out of the US dollar. Mind you, this is December of 2008. Yeah. They had already planned on this, and they had riots going on in China that they were trying to keep down at the time, revolts from each of the regions. And so I left the hotel, and things started flying. And I was staying at Kowloon at the time, because we were in the Mandarin Hotel on Hong Kong Island, and I blew up one of the wings because I put my hairdryer into one of the wrong plugs. And so I just sort of was like, I don't like the energy of this place. I want to go to Kowloon. I don't want to be in Hong Kong. So I was actually in a private car going back to Kowloon, to where I was staying. And all of a sudden, all these images started flooding in, and it was Blackwater. And so I walk in, and the images I saw, the terror, the blood, the everything, and I was like, told the driver, I said, turn around, go back. And I walk straight into the bar. I don't really even remember walking in and walking the steps or any of that, but I walk in, I find the translator, Lewis, in the back, in the bar, on the phone, and I look at him and I take a book out of my bag, I tear a piece off my book, and I just write one word, and I go, tell General Wong, if he doesn't do, what's in this for China? He wants to know what's in this for China? I said, doing the right thing. Otherwise, this is what you get. And I put the paper down on the desk. He unfolds it and he goes, I go, you hand that to General Wong personally. Please don't put it over the lines. And he goes, like this. And I didn't know if I'd ever hear from these guys again, but all I knew was that's what was going to happen. And
What did you put in the paper?
I wrote Blackwater. And when I got back I didn't even have time to shut my door before my burn phone was ringing. And it was the translator saying, General Wong will work with you as long as you can help arrange that the old man will sell China gold. That was it. So I understood that even though the old man or grandfather, however you want to call it, is behind a lot of things, there has been an usurpation and a total breakage in the systems, the family systems itself. And the former systems itself, there was already a natural fissure. So all it took was some more light shining in. That was it. And that was my first moment of knowing the energetics and knowing about the old man. And then after that, I meet with the old man all the time. Grandfather, whatever you want to call him. I meet with him all the time. And he doesn't look as old as he is, but he is old. We all are. Everyone on this planet are some of the greatest masters in the universe. Hear me now, experience it later, but that's the truth of it, in my experience. The old man is, right now you have a lot of people saying this, that, or the other. And I love the old man. We worked a lot of things out. He took a lot of things so that he could make them transparent. I was doing this, others were doing this. It's a huge coordinated cooperation, the likes of which have never been done before, and the likes which will never be needed or necessary again, ever. And his role, who he really is, everyone meeting him, knowing who he is and experiencing him. He's multi-dimensional being that is in human form, goes from human form to human form, and I don't mean like body hosting or anything like that. He's been around for a very long time. And even his daughter looked like she was 25 and she's in her 40s. And she just had a baby and she looks beautiful, but she also had her alchemist that was sitting next to her who wouldn't let her eat certain food. He's the one that preps everything for her. So there are ways and methods that they use to elongate. Your body regenerates every 10 years. All parts of your body regenerate every 10 years. So explain to me why we die, except for our own beliefs.
Yeah.
So, and that's another question. Put that on the list that I want answered. And send them to Brian.
Okay. Does that satisfy the question of what the old man's role is in unfolding events right now?
He's making everything transparent.
There we go.
There was an agreement in March of 2012.
Mm-hmm.
We had a big gathering, and basically was that everything would be made visible, including the stuff for your old man. For grandfather, everything would be made visible for everyone, including me, including him, including everything. And he's kept his promise. And Great Eagle had called me, Mark Rackley had called me, I think before you guys left for Spain.
The day before you...
Day before they left for Spain. And it was so funny because he was like, yeah, China had bought the UCC from, Europe. You had bought it from them about 1.5 years, 2 years before you had done what you did. And I started laughing. I go, yes, because that was one route that could have been taken. But 1.5 years, I always used to get very upset with, our intel guys saying, why isn't the old man doing anything? Before I knew who he really was and had an experience, with him in other ways to go in and get things organized and implemented, I was always upset. Why isn't he doing anything? Why everyone's suffering? We need to stop this. Nothing's moving, blah, blah, blah. And they go, Heather, he doesn't work on a time continuum. And at that time I did. And I was like, somebody go up and get him, bring him down. All he has to do is push a button and it can go into everyone's account. Why isn't it being done? And then I found my answer through my own journey because it had to come from within. So my choices were definitely made from that, and I thank him for teaching me that, and actually more like helping me remember. So for him, for me, the old man, grandfather, whatever you want to call him, he's very personal. For anyone else that's experienced him, they'll have their own experiences, and they have their own take on it.
You just mentioned everything being made visible, and what that brought up for me was many past conversations that we've had about absolute data. And one of the questions actually that came in is, can you tell us what you mean by absolute data, and also how you see absolute data manifesting into our existing reality?
Okay. Direct talk. Because I don't know what Heather speak means. I know people say it all the time, but I don't know what it means. So I'm going to say direct talk and really reach into what words will assist. Number one, everything is within. So people talk about Akashic records. They talk about, I can't even pronounce the other word that they call them. All I know is the data is within. You want to know, you go within. Okay, there is not one piece of data that is not at your access. Okay. Another thing is assisting everyone to know what the data is in another way as well. There are so many ways the data is actually, it's all visible. There's so many ways that it's being highlighted. So I would just say it's being highlighted because it's all visible. It's just what you choose to see. Okay. Everyone is assisting in imagining other ways. For someone that may not see it this way, someone's imagining they might see it this way, and they might see it this way. So right now there's a huge coordinated cooperation going on to push all those imaginings out so that people do see what actually has been in front of them and within them the entire time.
Just so you know, if you Google Heather Speak, it actually has its own Wikipedia page now.
And with translator.
Can you explain how the galactics, angelics, universals, etc. are
Sorry,
all...
go ahead.
Can you explain how the galactics, angelics, and universals, etc. are all a part of the reality matrix?
You know, it was the Wingmaker piece, I think, that you
Followed
brought
by
out.
the question, what's your take on the Wingmaker's material?
There we go. See, I love that. The Wingmakers actually, for me, spoke it out accurately. I didn't find any disinformation that resonated. When I read something, I can sense and feel when something's been left out.
Specifically, it was interview 5.
Yes, sorry.
Five, right.
Interview 5. I haven't read anything else.
Dr. Maruda, the 5th interview, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have not taken the time to read any of the other stuff, but Lisa insisted that I read this particular piece. As far as angelics, cosmics, for me, the way that I sense them, feel them, experience them, is that it's all states of conscious, and they're all actually all of us. You know, they're all within us. So when someone asks me, have you met ETs? Have you done this or that? I'm like, yeah, I look in the mirror every day. Have you met angels? Yep, I look in the mirror every day. Have you met God? Yep, I look in the mirror every day. And I also look at my friends every day. I look at you every day. So when everyone's like, oh, they don't exist because I don't see them, I don't experience them, I'm like, should I hold a mirror up? Would that help? Because I just don't know if anyone's going to get this. Everyone is multidimensional. Those are the parts that are coming in. I really did I really enjoyed the Waymaker's piece for many reasons, personal and otherwise. I just say go out and read, or what I do, because there's so much data that I had to go through, I developed my own way of doing it, was just say whatever is relevant for me to become aware of what is, it will just end up in front of me somehow, somewhere. And that's what happens, you know, and I'm just very conscious, and every morning I wake up, okay, I want to see what is today. And then data shows up. Otherwise, if it's calm and it's cool, which is very far in between.
We don't experience
I really
cool
enjoyed those
very
moments
often.
too. So I would say that for me, that was probably an accurate description. I'd really like for everyone to just figure out how they want to experience it, because it is very personal to everyone. It'll be different, as different for each embodiment as there are embodiments.
For anyone that hasn't, I highly suggest going and reading the Dr. Neruda 5th interview. Look it up, Wingmakers, Wingmaker's Material, Dr. Neruda 5th interview, which came out in March 6th or something.
2014.
Here's a good one. We didn't really cover this, but based on the facial expressions you were using in our last talk, I felt it was pertinent, so I actually added it. What is your assessment of the word sovereign or sovereignty?
Who added that question?
I did.
Okay, I'm gonna rattle. I can, you know, Brian,
Buzzwords,
I'm
go in.
really not liking you. I love you, but not really liking you.
You told me not to tell you these questions ahead of time.
Here's the thing, just from my own experience, okay? Mind you, I'm not talking about anyone else, and I'm not talking about any movements that are out there, because the only movement I pay energy into is me moving myself, whether it's my state of conscious, whether it's my heart, whether it's my body. What can I do? What can I move of me in order to get things done? Okay? There are certain words that I, through the investigations and everything else, there's so much data that I had to cover. Hoover, from what I've experienced, Hoover set up this disinformation campaign, and it was actually not even Hoover, it was something that was given.
J. Edgar Hoover?
Where they could identify things a lot faster. So buzzwords, okay? And in fact, many of the former systems departments have actually used buzzwords all along, okay? Sovereign's one of them, Freeman's another. So sovereign, yeah. I get the energy that Sacha kept using, and he kept saying sovereign, and I just was like, I'm sure the facial expressions, and it had nothing to do with Sacha, and it had nothing to do with the intent that he was talking about, or the energy he was talking about. That had to do with me dealing with knowing what those had been, and knowing that they can change however we want them to. So it was really me dealing with me and my reactions to it. But they have been buzzwords. They have been, and it doesn't limit or box anyone else unless I let them. And that's what I was dealing with, was my own boxing of those movements, of the people, because it had nothing to do with them. It had things to do with former systems and how words were used to embody something easy enough to target and take out. And so that's my response to you asking me about my facial expressions when the word sovereign come up.
It's not necessarily the definition, it's the word.
No, it was the fact that it was a word that had been packed with certain energy and used in order to harm other embodiments. And it had nothing to do with people wanting to be free or using it as a word to make themselves free or to assist in the movement, the moving of the body or the state of conscious or the heart, to make everyone aware that they're free. It had to do with how it was used, why it was implemented by the former systems. And again, I take full responsibility how I'm reacting to it, and it is only my issue. It is only my facial expressions, which actually give you an insight as to what I have to deal with, not only with 4 kids, but with myself. So
It's kind of like me dealing with the
before
word
you move on to the
divine.
next question, this brought up something else to me too, which is common law.
No.
There's another one.
really,
Yeah, it did. It tweaked that one.
Okay.
Because there is, at the moment, such a push.
okay.
You know, there's common law courts and, you know, there's a huge common law push. So
If you look at common law, all right, look up the definition of common law.
What's the difference between common and natural law?
Common law is a majority. Okay, it's common practice. If you look up even just the definition of common law, it says that it is something that is in practice. Okay, so and common law was used a lot in feudal systems, right? If it was common practice for this, and it was amongst merchants and things like that, if it's common practice for any group of people for
By the
this,
majority.
then it is common law. Natural law, like I said with Sacha, it is something that just is. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to sit there and go, I'm going to practice this, because you're breathing it, you're doing it. In your multi-dimensional self, you are doing every aspect of natural law, okay? Or violating every, depending on what's happening. Common law is actually, we know it by another name, democracy.
Democracy.
Majority, okay? So in common law, if all of us are sitting there and let's say we comprise a group that practices common law, and we're going to enforce common law, and we're going to do this. And let's say we say, okay, common practice, we all smoke cigarettes, Brian doesn't.
Majority
Smoking
rules.
is great.
we all get to
Majority
smoke.
rules why you gotta smoke. But I don't want to smoke. You gotta smoke because it's common law and it's practice and you're violating, so you're gonna get dinged. And we're gonna take all of your little brownies and we're going to eat them.
Shit, just give me a cigarette.
Okay.
Okay, here.
So, and I know that sounds like a silly, I'm not trying to make light of it. What I'm trying to express here is the fact that you can call it common law, you can call it democracy, you can call it communism. You can call it whatever you want, but it's still the same girl in a different dress, simultaneously. So when people mention common law, I just kind of, and when they mention sovereign, I'm like, and it's only because those are my issues, because I know what they've been used for, and I'm watching an attempt, them trying, because it's already set to fail, trying to set up something that will allow democracy, which democracy was called something else.
It's like a phoenix.
Way back when, it's just a phoenix. And so, you know, yeah, those are my issues. And so the tweaks and the twinges and all of that, it's me apparently showing you all that I have issues with those. I'm not saying anyone else has to. I just know what they are. And as much as I said I'd be a shield for things, I don't want to be a shield, but I will be, because they're using common law right now to justify arrest and judgment and all of that. People have asked me to actually construct court systems. And this is way back when, asked me to construct court systems, and that I would have to sit, they wanted me to sit as the high judge when all this stuff got cleaned up and cleared out. And none of it resonated with me. Because if everyone's one, and I get this whole oneness and all of this stuff, even oneness, when I hear oneness and we work for the light, and I'm just like, because you are light. We don't have to talk about it, just be it.
She twitches a lot.
I twitch and tweet.
A lot.
I would even dovetail on that and say it's more so about the intent than it is about the words that are being used.
It's the energy packed in there.
So for all those people that are out there talking about sovereignty and common law, their intent is...
I love they're just talking.
Yeah.
That's a huge step.
Absolutely.
They're just talking. They're my issues, guys.
When I wrote all the template articles over the last month, that was the whole thing. It's a really important point for people to understand is these people who are putting themselves up front and are saying, I'm going to change this. I'm going to make the world better. I am going to do whatever it is that group is doing. They're coming from their heart. The fact that if they're perceived controllers behind them saying, oh, common law would be a great thing, you know, go this way. It's not a judgment on their intent, because these people are coming genuinely from their heart. And if they're being led, I talked today, the article I put out today, about the whole Occupy Wall Street thing, right?
Yeah.
Heather, we had quite a few discussions over the last year and a half about it, but I sat down with her and went through all the data yesterday just to make sure I had everything clear. You know, here was the intent of a guy to change the world, to bring the world's attention to the corruption of Wall Street, of the bankers, etc. What he didn't know was that it was the bankers themselves who were funding him.
Actually, yeah. It was a
who
great
were setting it
conversation.
up, you know, but so
his
intent was from the deepest part of his heart to change things.
Absolutely.
The intent is there. And that's sometimes the lesson that we all have to learn is like, look at the intent, not the word itself. I'm working on the divine thing, trust me. The intent is there, and the intent is from the heart.
You know, I, especially working in this last thing that we did with Sacha, it was really interesting to hear some, and I was following it energetically just from the few comments that I had about people saying, Sacha this, Sacha that, I don't agree with that, I don't like North Nation, I don't like all this stuff, and I'm just sitting there looking at the beauty of the energy that Sacha and everyone put into something, and yes, it is a lot of hierarchy, okay? But at the same time, I'm looking more at the energy of Sacha and all the people that he's working with, and all I see is beautiful energy because it's them that's inside of it, and they can change whatever doesn't work for them or for anyone else if that's what they so feel. I was there to be with Sacha and to be with all of you. And that just happens to be a tool that he created. And he's more than the sum that he produced, or any of the people that he mentioned that he works with, or that he works with that he didn't mention. You can just feel the love he has for all of them. And there are people that you can feel sort of hovering over this in the Phoenix models and everything else, where everything else they're trying is failing. Okay, so this has been preserved, this has been this or that. I really don't care what people think is there. I know what is, and those are the hearts. So it's whatever you guys want to focus on, really. And you can see what I don't want to focus on. When I twitch and cringe, it's because I don't want to pay energy into the old way that those words were packed with energy. Because I know the hearts and the people, the movement within the people that are actually using those words. Like day to day, living them.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, it's the being and
they're
doing that
beautiful.
we talk about, right? And what I spoke about today, if you don't like the direction it's going in, make a different choice. If you see, and all of a sudden you get it, I can't help it. I'm sorry, here, I'll hold you up, there you go. If all of a sudden you find yourself understanding something or seeing something for what it is, seeing an agenda, whatever. So make a different choice. And that's not just that's everyone. That's anyone who's involved in anything. If you see something and you go, oh, maybe I don't like the way that's going, make a different choice.
If you see hierarchy, see past it, see the people in it. It's like seeing the cop in the uniform. You don't like the cop's uniform, see the person inside of it, and then deal from there.
Absolutely. Just another Halloween costume. With that being said, really important question here. What is your current relationship to the Jesuit order?
I knew he was going to bring that up.
I had to. This was not mine, by the way. This came from Facebook.
Brian didn't write this one.
No, actually, it's a good question because people have been asking that all along, and I know that they're now cringing and tweeting the question. I can tell you this, is that I received a high school degree from a Jesuit institution called Bellarmine Preparatory High School. I also received a Juris Doctorate from Gonzaga School of Law, which is a Jesuit institution. My whole family basically went to Gonzaga, which is the undergrad, and it's a Jesuit institution. The only other contact I've had with the Jesuits, other than going to school, is Father Robert Arujo Jr., who was a co-architect of the Hague's International Criminal Court, who was one of my profs, and I wasn't his best student. That's really it. I did have to talk my way into law school, because all I cared about was volleyball. I played for the university, and that's where I put all my energy into. And talking my way in was just saying, you'll never regret letting me in, and I think they might be regretting it at this point. But that's it. That's my whole, and other than the love that I said.
Are just open to anybody?
Yeah, anyone can apply.
Yeah.
You don't have to be Catholic or anything, and I'm not Catholic, so
what would
unless I broke a canon there, I don't know. I don't think so, but.
What would you say to the people that asked the question, how could she possibly done what she did and still survive it without getting taken out if you weren't related to or had some kind of
do not
affiliation
consent
with victim families? And another question I get a lot is, can Heather even step foot into the United States without being arrested or bullet in the head?
I know that a lot of attempts have been reported and that they were all stopped. There are people that are always watching and protecting, and all I know is that I had a mom that told me that no matter what I did, I was protected. All the way till the day that she transitioned, and now really they kind of got to deal with her and others to even get to me. But really I know who I am. And it's funny because there is, in the Jesuits, when they went to basically convert tribes and what they call rural people way back when, okay, is that there was this Jesuit handbook, and it always kept being mentioned through by Charlie Miller throughout this whole thing. And supposedly in this book it says, to summarize, because I've never read it, never seen it, was that basically when they found out who they were, you had to leave them alone. You can't touch them. And it's a huge energetic thing. It never really made sense to me. I just washed it away. It didn't mean anything to me until I really got into things, and you know, I have received certain threats and all that, and I really look into them. I look into my children, I look into all this stuff, and all I know is, and nobody can change what I'm knowing and experiencing, is that we're all here, we're all doing this together, and I know no matter what's in front of me, I'll deal with it. And nothing's going to happen to me. You guys are really stuck with me, I think, for about 6,000 years, or until I get bored.
Whatever comes first.
Whichever comes first.
Oh man, just jamming through these at this point. Have you ever been attacked by archons or beings from other dimensions?
Okay,
Does it count when I throw food at her across the
If
table?
you can address this one to Cobra.
let's put it this way. There are some multidimensional doings which we actually would do and then put on Skype just so that all the boys and girls on all the sides of the ponds could actually see what we were doing and then see whether there was a cause and effect or an actual ripple that went through.
Yeah.
And there were some really fantastic ones I really, really love. Now,
And we are working on getting these pulled together to be published. And if any one of us could actually access our hard drives in our computers, it would help. But we're working on it.
well, what's great about it is you put these things on Skype, and you know they've got them. And if they want to do a discredit campaign or anything else, I mean, in the old days, like if this had been done a couple of years ago or even a year ago, where we actually are going to share these, people would be like, she's off her rocker, they're all off their rocker. What's funny, they never once published any of them.
No.
Because they know that it would actually trigger too many people, because there were a lot of beings in those doings, and it might just help them remember that they were there and they were doing it. So I always giggle about those. Now, as far as the specific question, archons. Okay, I meet with a lot of different groups. I don't necessarily say these are archons, these are Palladians, these are this or that. I really don't pay attention to names or anything else. All I know is what I'm doing needs to be done. When I said that I was going to play with the banks last July, or whatever, not even last July, when was that? 2013.
Previous
summer.
And we
It
did
was before.
before, some moment ago.
I said I would play with the banks. Well, as I was going in to play with the banks, I realized that we actually have to deal with the energy regulators, and this is where all the historical bonds and everything else come into play, which I don't want to go into right now, but these multi-dimensional, that's what we were doing for 4 months straight, doing what we called universal or multi-dimensional doings, and going in, because on the planetary they take orders, so you've got to deal with the ones that are actually giving the orders. So it was a matter of that. So I can't tell you whether I've met archons, because I don't go by names. I just do what I got to do, and whoever's in front of me, that's who I've got to deal with. That's what I've got to deal with. What was the other one?
Or other
Archons.
dimensional beings.
Oh yes.
That's pretty much it.
Attacks specifically.
attacks?
That's why I asked about food fights, if that counts.
No, okay, so here's how it at least works for me, is that through experience, nobody's been able to actually remotely do anything. Observing, yes, but even that, they can't observe, remote view me like they can others. And so they typically have to put someone physically in my presence or on a phone or whatever it may be. And the only thing they can actually measure with their technologies is the vibrations of things. Mm-hmm. And even that, so even some of Dee's Intel guys were just trying to figure out what dimension I was from. So all I can tell you is everyone is multidimensional from my experience, including the people who are in this room. And I specifically made contact with the people that you see here, plus Bill and Cal Pele, because at that time I was like, right, I've taken the investigations as far as they can go on the planetary side. It needs to go all the way to Universal. And I looked and looked and looked to, as I was doing the filings, I said, reveal whoever I need to come in contact with. And funny enough, most of the ones that I need to come in contact with had placed themselves in media type spots, various media type spots, which was what I'd just been dealing with mainstream media and our guys in mainstream media who were like, Heather, we can't do this, we can't, they will kill us, they will do this, they will do the same thing. Have you ever been attacked? Whether it's Archons or Men in Black or Federal Reserve or FBI or whatever you want to call it. Everyone's afraid of being attacked. All I know is that methods they traditionally would use with certain embodiments just never worked on me. And so they would physically have to put someone in. And when I went to London with Caleb that first time in 2011, London in Switzerland, to do the most expensive personal service ever done in history.
Was that when you dropped off the papers of the Rothschild house?
When I got to meet with the Rothschilds, I loved it because Jeffrey Graham was like, "Hello, nice to meet you. I recognize you from your mugshot." I was like, "Yeah, I bet you do." You know, and he's such a great guy. I love Jeffrey. He's got great energy. And the energy in the Rothschilds, the building itself, the energy of the Rothschild entity is an amazing energy. Very powerful, very, very old. And it so wants to play. It feels like it's being enslaved too. And when we walked into that building, I swear, and it was a brand new building compared to the one that they had been in. And I tell you, it was like a kid going, "Oh, they're here to play, they're here to play." And it was an amazing feeling. We had an amazing experience. And Jeffrey was just such a great guy. And Tony, I felt so bad for Tony's personal assistant. The poor girl, I think, might have had a nervous breakdown, but even she did great. I mean, it was an amazing experience. So when we went, what was the question? This is normal. This is how it goes. What was the question? Seriously.
At least he's got the questions written down.
What was the question?
It was something to do with the
Yes. Oh, attacks. Yeah. Oh, attacks. Yes. And so supposedly the guy that was on duty, because anytime I travel, there's always someone on security detail that I never see, but is always there. And I was told this time when I got back that it was a walker. Apparently, they don't even like George W. Bush.
Slate Walker.
They don't even like George Walker Bush. You know, so I'm just sitting there laughing, going, "Okay, well, we're still here. We made it. It's fine. Okay." If they told me it was Walker I'd be like this, you know. And Caleb didn't believe any of that stuff. He's like, "Oh, there's no agents anywhere or anything else." Until finally, I walk in and meet him at Starbucks in Switzerland. He's like, "See those two guys over there?" And they all have an earbud. I mean, it's just funny because it literally is just hilarious. So. We had a good time, and one of the agents did approach us. We all went to dinner, and he wanted to meet with us to see if we were scared or if we could be made scared, right? So we're having dinner, and Caleb is kind of sitting there, and he's going, "You know, the Federal Reserve and debt doesn't exist." And he's going on, and I finally had to go, "Caleb, you're not telling him anything he doesn't already know. I think he's here for something else." And so Caleb's like, "Oh." Like this, and I was like, "Okay, right, so who exactly are you with?" And we went through it all, and all I knew was he wanted to know if we were scared or if we could be made scared. So just to show him, I go, "Okay, I'm gonna go out and smoke a cigarette," and I'm on the river that goes right into the lake in Zurich, and I'm sitting outside just, you know, and there's all these cars driving by, and you don't know what's going to happen, and I'm just sitting there, and even though I was shaking in my boots, because I had no idea who was around the corner, what kind of, if someone was going to try to shoot or anything else, because this guy, you know, he's pretty powerful as far as the energetics go. So I'm just sitting there and I'm like, smoking my cigarette going, "I hope this ends as he doesn't expect." And I'm out there and I'm shaking, not because it's cold, but because I'm sitting there going, no, it's not happening. We're fine. And I walk back in and he's just sitting there going, like this. Couldn't believe I'd gone out and sit on the street or anything else, and he wanted to meet again, and and he wanted to know, "What do you think of George Bush? What do you think of Clinton? What do you think of, what about the Papa?" And I was like, "The Papa?" I'd never really heard him refer to that, and I go, "Oh, you mean the Pope?" In Italy, they call him the Papa. And so I was like, "Oh, so you're Italian?" He goes, "Oh, no." I mean, it was just, we had the best time ever. So as far as fear and as far as attacks, no. None that I've actually physically had to deal with where I'm ducking bullets or dodging cars, trying to hit me, at least that I know of. I've had some car accidents, so maybe that might be possible, but I'm not conscious of any of that. But I have heard the reports after the fact, and nothing's gone the way they expect, you know, and I do know that I can pulverize anything that's in front of me. So that's where we are.
I have no idea.
I have no idea. Anyone keeping track of time?
I think we're coming up close on 2 hours.
Exactly 2 hours.
Okay. I have a last closing question, and then if either of you have any questions or things that you want to add. Where's the camera that I'm looking at? There it is. This one over here? That one.
Yeah,
Okay.
that one's running right now. You want to
In our previous conversation with Sasha, you talked about your current focus being nothing that has ever happened, that has already happened, but what's happening right now.
Mhm.
And right now you're focused on what you refer to as internal tech or iTech. Can you explain what you mean by that? And can you just share in your own words what you're most excited about?
Wearing your undies on the outside.
What you're, I don't know what that means. What you're most excited about for where we go from
Another
here.
hour?
Where we go from here, and the end game, and all of that coming together.
Oh my god. Is that really a question that's written, or is that something you're just...
made that
The
up.
Can I see
fucking
the question?
peanut gallery over here. Can't shut the fuck up
Can I
for
see
one
the
question.
question?
That's just from me. You ran through all the ones that you want to answer on this thing.
Okay.
All of the rest are UCC
If-
filing questions.
If there's any questions that I haven't answered, I'll go look to see if it's never been answered, and then actually write
Can
those
you
out.
edit out all those F-bombs I just dropped?
Raw data,
No,
baby.
raw
Not
data.
one piece missing. Okay,
He
so
has a potty mouth.
first off, iTech, yes, that's all I'm focused on right at this minute because it makes everything else irrelevant. Okay? The tech that we are, that's a very loaded statement because it's our multidimensional selves coming in through these vehicles, which are for the pleasure of doing, the pleasure of making things magical and fantastical, which is what it actually all is. Okay? And that is the end game, but it's also the beginning game. All right?
More importantly, the big kid.
It's more importantly the beginning game. What does that look like? What do you imagine? I mean, obviously you're not imagining much, or you wouldn't have asked me the question because you would have already had the answers because you would have gone with it, but you didn't, so here we are. Right? Okay. I have my own imaginings, and I do them every day. Today was an amazing day. I had my son Zach and your daughter Fee the day before, but I just noticed that I'm very aware of my own field and it pushing out. And I noticed that when all of a sudden things will flare that field out very strongly to where the other person is going like this, and they can feel it, and there's no way for them to get out of it. And and it's so lovely that it's the children that I'm doing this with that actually provoke this, right? Because I'm just sitting there going, all that I feel for them is love. And they're not even children. I see behind their disguises. But they sit there and they do these things and I'm like, oh, like this. And I'm very aware of what I'm doing. And I know that when I say that I can pulverize something, that's exactly what can be done. But at the same time, it can also just envelop and infuse however they want to take the energy, however they want to do it. So like with Fee, it was, she bit my daughter, and it was kind of like, why are you biting my daughter? You know, kind of a thing. Why did you bite Layla? Because she didn't want a hug. I was like, oh, how gorgeous of an answer is that? Because what would you pulverize with that, right? So you sit there and you go, if you want to give hugs and nobody wants to take them, please give them to me. I'll take them and I will give them back, right? So it's one of these moments, but my field was just, it was very, very tangible because your daughter was just like, and she knows, she knew. And so my son was the same thing. My kids, I have an 11-year-old and a 12-year-old. The 11-year-old's taller than I am, and I'm 5'9". My son is almost taller than I am, and he's 12. So I'm sitting there, and he's just like, my energy just automatically goes, without me even intending it, it just, so I'm very conscious of it, and we're both like this, you know, just in that moment, and it was like, okay, how can we diffuse this? And it was more like, felt like a training session today, you know, be aware of your energy field, be aware of how it's affecting others, be aware of what it's doing, because I can absolutely envelop, and I can absolutely change their energetic field just with my thought. And I watched him, and it was kind of like, and I had to defuse it over an Xbox.
Don't even go there. Don't.
And I had to diffuse the situation. We figured out how to diffuse it, and I felt him just go right back in. And the first thing that came to mind was the whole Last Airbender where he takes the water, and it's like, show them the power of water. Don't hurt anyone, but show them the power of water. And it felt like that with my energy field, just being aware of it and knowing what it could do. And then just choosing love and going in and just going, right, and having this moment of just seeing what compassion, as Sasha would say, and love and what it can do. It was amazing. I love that we're working on all this in the privacy of perception, which is an illusion in itself. But home, being where people love each other, we support each other as we go through these things, and we're able to work this stuff out. So when the moment comes and we're in front of others, and if I am in front of someone that is scared, at least I know what to do, because I don't want to harm anyone. I want to be able to empower everyone to know who they are and know what they be and do something with it and not harm anybody else, because there is only one, okay, in all these environments. So that's, for me, iTech right now, where I'm at, is being hyper aware of my own iTech and consciously choosing how to use it. Even if it's flared up in the heat of the moment, I can actually recognize when it's going to flare up at this point, because of the last 3 days that we were going on. But the power of it, the feel of it, it's thick, it is palatable, it is tangible, and knowing what I can do with it, and yet choosing this, and it goes like this, it diffuses everything in a heartbeat. Everyone's all happy. We've gone through a lot of topics this week. We've gone through a lot of doings this week, and I can tell you it's all fantastic. I'm exhausted, and yet I'm infused with this energy of knowing what we did and what we've accomplished every single moment, and I'm raring to go. I wasn't before this conversation. I was actually making it so it's delayed.
It's just really nice to have you as a permanent member of the Collective Imagination Show. Wow.
Good try.
She's like, no,
Good
no.
try.
Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.
Have you videoed? This one too. Thank you everyone for tuning in to the Collective Imagination Show. Lisa Harrison, final thoughts.
We done, are we? Okay. No final thoughts. I just want to say thank yous.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this again and following up with those questions. Hopefully we'll also be able to bring Sacha's answers to the questions put forward to him very soon as well. Dave?
I have no final thoughts
Thanks.
either. My brain is baked. It's hot, and I'm tired.
It's really hot.
Well, if anybody has any follow-up questions to the material that we've covered today, please forward those along to D at Removing the Shackles.
No. D doesn't have an email address, remember?
You can email to me at briankellysblog@gmail.com, and we look forward to having you, next week for the One People Show, possibly.
We might even make it live.
Depending if we find a venue. But that being said, Heather, thank you.
One with air conditioning.
D, thank you.
Guys.
And until next time, much love. Namaste.
Broadcasting a new paradigm on the One Network.